So, welcome to today's session, whereby we are going to be looking at the few questions that remained on functions and modules. So, in yesterday's session, we were able to look at a few questions, and a number of questions remained. And that is exactly what we are going to be looking at in this session. Even before we proceed, I want to mention something that I might have forgotten to mention when we were beginning to learn Python. So there is the official Python website whereby we just came in and downloaded the software to our machine. But I forgot to mention a very key thing about this official Python website, whereby in here we are able to get the resources that we need to at least cover Python end to end. All right. So basically, every other coding language has a documentation. So the documentation is to take you through the full course. That is everything that you are required to know. So in here, I just want to show you how to access the Python documentation. So once you just visit the official Python web page, there is this option here of documentation, and of course we have quite a number of options here, so we can make use of what we have here, Python docs. So just click on that, and in here I get some information about Python documentation. In here we can see the various Python versions that exist. So let me just go directly to this option, the tutorial option. All right, so once we get here, then in here we get the outline, the course outline of Python. All right, so basically if you get time, because whatever we are covering is not end to end, as we can see here. So if you get time, you can explore what this documentation has. All right, so that was just a recap. This was supposed to be mentioned when we started this course, but again, it's not too late to mention that now. All right, so let's now move on from where we left at yesterday. We are required to define a function where a local variable has the same name as a global variable, and then we are supposed to demonstrate the differences. All right, so in here I can define a global variable. I can make use of x is equals to 10. All right, then in here I define a function, almost the same function that we had. So basically in this case we term this as the global variable. Then in this function we can talk about x is equals to, say, 30. All right, and then I can just return x. All right, so in this case we would term this as a local variable. So in here, if I print x, uh, let me see the value that should print. Again, if you just make a guess before printing, I believe you can tell that this is the x that is in reference in this case. Let's do that. So we see we get 10, simply because this print function, now that we are printing x, we only have access to this global variable here, x equals to 10. All right, so if we want to print whatever we have here, then we can just we can simply do print, and we call our function so that we get access to this x that is being referred to within the function. So if we do that, right, so this is now the time we get hold of the x that has been defined within this function. So for us to get access to the to this local variable within the function, we have to call the function. All right. Then in case you wanted to, to add this x to what we have here, let us see. Probably now for us to refer to this 10, the best would be maybe terming this to be x, to be y. All right. Then declaring this x to be a global variable within this function. Then in here, we can do our arithmetics. All right, whereby we add x and y. Let's try to do that. All right, so we see that the first one returns x is equals to 10. Then the second one was able to add this 10 to this 30, and we get 40. So this example and what we mentioned previously, I think that would be a good illustration to respond to this question here. So we are supposed to write a function that modifies a global variable inside it using the global keyword. So it is the same thing that we have been doing by we just talked about x being 30. Then we define a function in here. We can call it global number, just any name. Then in here we can modify our x here. All right, so we can talk of x plus equals, okay, maybe we can talk about, let me assign our new x to y and talk of x, we add say 60 to x. But again, remember, we have to declare this x globally within this function so that we are able to access this value. All right, then in here we can simply return y. Then we call our function by just talking about print global number, and once we execute this, we should get the modified value of x. Remember, even if you are returning y, we can also talk of it as the value of x, no harm, because it has been modified to the new value. But remember, again, we said that that value is not persistent, because even if we execute it 10 times, the value will still be 90. All right. So that's the way to approach this question number 11. All right. So in here we are supposed to create a function that uses a nested function to access a variable defined in the outer function. So in here we are supposed to, to think of creating two functions, right? So we have the inner function and we also have the outer function. All right. So the way to do that, we can, let's do this. So we have outer. Let's talk about the outer function. All right. So in here, so we haven't been told whether to deal with numbers or anything. So let me just talk about my name, or just name here. All right. Then once we define the outer function, let's define another function in here and call it the inner function. All right. So for this one, we can just call it that way without passing any parameter. All right. Then the next thing, if this inner function is executed, we can just print. Let's print some greetings. So we can talk about, all right, let me use the other method that we mentioned of passing variables within strings. So remember, we had such a method. All right. So again, so if we do that, then using the outer function, we can return the inner function. All right. So this is what we have done. We have declared an outer function in here. All right, then just imagine this wasn't there. All right, we need to return something. So that something is another function that we are calling inner function that has been created, and it is supposed to print some greetings. All right, so again, for us to be able to execute this, we can assign the outer function to some variable. So let me talk about greetings, and we are going to call the outer function. All right, and the outer function expects us to pass in a parameter. Let me talk about Daniel. All right, so if we call this function as we are doing now, it is supposed to return the inner function. So by assigning it to greetings, so we have simply assigned the inner function to a variable named greetings. All right, so to execute this, let us try to do this. It sounds like a little bit complicated, but once you understand the scope, it should work in our favor. All right, should work as expected. So let me try to execute this. All right, so we see that um, we we have this command, and by running this command, we are calling the outer function, and it's supposed to return the inner function. So if we look at what the inner function has, when it is called, it's supposed to print in some greetings, and of course using the name that has been passed over from the outer function parameter. All right, so this is the approach to give to this problem. So it's not necessary that you have to use a name. You can use some integers, some floating number, and all that, as long as you are able to demonstrate what we have here. So the inner function is a nested function within the outer function. All right, so let's now move to question number 13. So you're supposed to create a Python script that imports your custom module and uses its function to perform calculations. All right, so I'll I'll consider my hello.py as my main file. So let me create another hello2.py here, whereby we are supposed to create some Python script. So in here, I can just talk about define sum and xy, and I should return x plus y. All right, then let me talk about diff. I'm hoping that's not a reserved keyword. Xy, and it should return x minus y. We can also define mult for multiplication, xy, and this should return x times y. We can also create division, div xy, and we return x over y. All right, so once we define this, we can make use of them here. All right, so in here we can simply import. So we can import hello2. Okay, so if we want, for instance, to perform addition, we can just do hello2 dot sum, then pass in 3 and 5. Again, in here we have told our program to return, so we are not gonna get anything here, but we just need to print to get something on the console. If we execute that, we get 8, 5, and 3. So for subtraction, I can just have that and instead of sum we had diff. So let's print that. Let's do all of them at once. So this should be multiplication. Let's do this. We print everything, but again, instead of diff, we have called multiplication multiplication. So let's have mult. Then for division, we can have, let me have that. We called it division. We can have 10 and 5. All right, so let's see how this one goes. So where did I take the diff one? Okay, all right. So basically for addition, it's hero2.sum. For subtraction, we talked about diff, that is 3 minus 5, multiplication 3 by 5, and division 10 divided by 5. If we execute this, the sum, we know the sum is 8, that's the first one here. For the difference, we get minus 2, that is 3 minus 2. For multiplication, 3 times 5, and for division, 10 divided by 5. So it is as simple as that. All right, then I can show you an alternative method. So instead of doing this, we can talk about from hero2 import sum diff. We also have div. We also have mult. All right, so when doing addition, just talk about sum, pass in your 20 and 30. For the difference, just talk about diff, then talk about 12 and 2. All right, then for multiplication, just pass in your parameters in here, 10 and 4. And finally for division, we can have 20 and 4. So again, we have to print, we have to do to print here. Let me do that. All right, so let's try to do that. Again, if you sum 20 and 30, get 50. That's what we have. Difference of 12 and 2, 10. That's what we have. Then we have multiply 10 by 4, get 40. And again, you can divide 20 by 4 to get 5. So you can basically use any of this and you get your desired output. All right, so in here we are supposed to create a Python module that containing functions for addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Import this module and use its function. So basically these two questions meant the same. Instead of maybe creating the math operator .py, we had hero2.py, which again is just the file name. So when it comes now to importing here, you will import math underscore operations. All right, so this should be the file name. All right, so in here we are supposed to write a module that contains a function to check if a number is prime. Import and use this module in another script. All right, so let's do that here. Let's do that here. All right, so the first thing is to first of all understand how you check if a number is prime. All right, so we want to see if we are able to check if a number is prime. So let me start with a number here, and I'll start with number 12 for a start. So remember, we said that a prime number is that number that is only divisible by 1 and itself, right? And the smallest of all The smallest of all prime numbers is 2. So we start with 2. All right. So from the given number, we can do a for loop whereby we check for I in, we want to have a range. So basically, to check if a number is prime, you try to divide it by the numbers before it. So for instance, 12, you should try dividing it by 2, 3, 4, all the way to 11. If possible, you can also try dividing it with itself, but it's not necessary because again, as we said, a prime number should only be divisible by 1 and itself. If there is any other divisor for that number, then that number stops or it's not a prime number. So for the range, we want to have a range between 2 and 12. All right. So in this case, instead of using number 12, we use num, which again will be the number that we assign here. All right. So this range will give us numbers ranging from 2 all the way to 11. 11 is the last digit. So we will try to divide 12 by these numbers before it. All right. So in case any of these numbers divides 12, just one, then this number is not prime. So we will make an assumption here and talk of is prime, set it to true. So we assume that whichever number that is given is a prime number. All right. So in here, we want to check if, so we want to divide our number. If so we are going to use the modulus operator, because remember we said that for you to know that a number is divisible by another, you use the modulus operator, and should you get a 0, then that confirms that uh, these numbers are divisible, or the first number is divisible by the second one. So in here, I'll try uh, to divide num by I, where I is any number from 1 to 11, both of, or rather from 2 to 11, both of them included. Sorry. So I'll have I, then pass in, or rather try to check if it's equals to 0. So in case this happens, just any number, just a single number is able to divide the given number, then we set is prime to false. All right. And we break because we do not want to continue trying to check if there is any other number that can divide the given number here, because having identified a single number in the given range that can divide this, then it really disqualifies that number from being a prime. So we just need to we just need to break from that group. All right. So once we break out of the loop, then we can just come in here and check if is prime. Then we can print something. Then print the given number is a prime number. Then you can talk of dot format and pass in num. Right. Today let me slightly change. So we can talk about else. Then print what you have here. But in here, we'll talk of is not prime. So we are here to create a function. For now, we are just creating the we are just doing a check. So in here, let me see if I can, let me just use this method. So 12 is not prime. If I use say 5, okay, I usually prefer typing in here, but for now let me use this. So we see that 5 is prime. All right, which again that's true. Then 11 should also be prime. All right, let me use the method I'm used to. Hello 2. All right, so again, if I use a bigger number, like do we expect, so 21 is not supposed to be a prime number. It's not prime, but 23 should be. All right, so this is our check. So we can create a function So, and again, instead of having these to change that, we can talk about input integer. Let's input, enter a number. All right. So again, if we execute this program again, we enter a number 3, S prime, execute it again, 7, S prime, execute it again, 12, is not prime number. So this is the program we have, and this is the one that we should use to create a function. So again, let me create a function. I'll talk of it being is prime number. Let me just do that. Is prime number. Then everything in here, I should push it back one level, right? So that it appears under our function. All right. So again, okay. So in here, the fact that I passed in num here, I can decide to, to pick it from here. But let us first of all try to, to make use of it as it is. So if I come to my hello.py, import, I can simply import, let me see. I am talking of from hello to import is prime number. All right. So I can come here and check is prime number and try to call that function. Doesn't return anything. What do we have here? So in here, I can just come in and talk of. Can I talk about report? Let me assign that to a variable called report. I fall short of a better term to use. So then in here, I can return report. All right, I'm hoping it is accessible. Let me try now to print this. Okay, come in here, try to execute it. Still not yet. I should call this particular file. So this is where I'm going wrong. So it should be hello.py because this is where we call the function that we created. All right. So, all right. So we are being requested to enter a number. Let me have 12 is not prime. I do that again. I have 11. 11 is a prime number. So this works. So the other way to do it. So we see once we execute our program, we are being prompted to input a number, which I believe is a better way to do it. But alternatively, we can comment this one out and pass in a parameter here so that when calling this function, we pass in uh, the number that we want to check if it's a prime number or not. So if we execute, we see 23 is a prime number. Let me have 230. 230 is not a prime number. All right. So this is simply how to approach it. So either way, you can decide to have the user input the number they want to check or pass it in here. So that's the approach that we can give this question.